Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to ENN number 17, Exiles Network News. This is your favorite entertainment news podcast where a panel of film exiles tackle the week's trendiest, hottest, most interesting, most controversial, most attention-worthy topics in exiles fashion, of course. That means we keep it real. We keep it all the way 100 and go over and beyond. We've already been exiled, so nobody can cancel us. We're not paid shills, so you're getting the absolute truth. Strap in for the ride. I am glad to be joined by my favorite people, my people, Paul and Christian. Hey, Paul, how are you doing? Say hello to the people. What's going on?
Hello, Lupe. Hello, everyone. Good to be here again, and always a treat to be one of your favorite people, Lupe.
Oh, thank you. That warms my heart. And Christian.
What's up, man? Yeah, I gotta echo that. I'm like, oh my god, I didn't realize I was one of your favorite people.
Yes, dude, we talk
to
every
live up to,
single
man.
week. I got family members that I don't talk to every single week, okay? That's a fact.
Same here.
That's true. Absolutely.
Okay, so last week we were back like bra straps. This week we're back at it like crack addicts.
Whoa.
Hey. All right. So here's the rundown of topics that we're going to talk about this week. The Flash, we had a collision of worlds, a meeting of two universes. So Ezra Miller's DCEU Flash made a cameo in Grant Gustin's CW Flash. Two Barry Allens sharing the same screen, sharing the same time and space. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about our reactions to it. We're going to talk about fans' reactions, and we'll get deep into it. Then, out of the blue, Star Wars Episode 9 had a script leak from Colin Trevorrow's version that was shelved. We'll talk about that as well. And then in our coming soon section, we're going to talk about the Black Widow special look from Marvel Studios at Disney. We're going to talk about the new Bloodshot trailer, and we're going to talk about Morbius from Sony's Spider-Verse. And here we go. So, in the latest episode of the CW Arrowverse crossover event, Crisis on Infinite Earths, Chapter 4, DC officially connected the TV and the movie universes with Ezra Miller's version of The Flash cameoing on the CW Flash. This cameo took place after Oliver Queen, who became the Spectre, tells CW's Barry Allen to search for his missing friends. So that Barry Allen goes to Star Labs only to see DCEU Flash there waiting for him. There are hints in their discussion, their little banter, that DCE's Barry Allen gets his name Flash from his conversation with Grant Gustin. Ezra Miller's Barry Allen talks about Cyborg, their costume comments, and it's over before you know it. Of course, this has lit up social media. There's fan, excitement and furor and all that stuff. So I want to know, Exiles, how did you guys feel about this, and what do you think it means for the future of the DC universe in general? Let's start with the most optimistic of us to kick us off on a very good note. Paul.
Lupe, I love this. This was the greatest thing I've seen in a long time.
You lie. You lie.
I'm trying, guys.
I gotta mute myself. I'm dying.
Oh, God. Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna be fair, because I've had some time to calm down and think about this, and I could see some positives, that have come out of this. But let me start with my initial reaction. Wow. When I first saw that thumbnail, I thought, hey, they got some guy wearing Ezra Miller's suit on the CW. And then I looked at it a little more closely, and I thought that can't really be Ezra Miller. and he wouldn't be on the CW. And then I went and found the clip, and sure enough, it's Ezra Miller. And wow, that was some of the hardest, most relentless cringe I've seen in a long time. I was embarrassed for him. I mean, maybe that's the CW, right? Maybe that's the style. That's I don't watch the CW. I'm not a fan of that. That Arrowverse, or that just that type of programming. It's just not for me. But wow, yeah. I mean, it was painful to watch. But when you stop and you look at it, and you look at the reaction, there's a lot of people that are really hyped about seeing these two worlds come together. And I obviously love the Snyderverse. I'm not a fan of the CW, but the Snyderverse gets attacked a lot by CW fans. And if this can sort of bridge that gap a little bit, and maybe bring them on board to wanting to see more of the Snyderverse, then great. That's fantastic. Now, I'm not sure that's what it's going to do, because part of what brought the cringe so hard for me was that this was really leaning into the comedic elements of the Flash from Justice League. And I'm holding out hope that when we do eventually see the Snyder Cut, or Zack Snyder's Justice League, that it's not going to be so cheesy and comedic, that the comedy will be a little more subtle. Now, granted, I'm sure he's still going to be somewhat the comedic relief, but I didn't like the performance or the dialogue at all in this. But as I say, if it bridges the gap, if it reminds people that, hey, the Snyderverse is still out there, then great. My gut feeling, though, is that this is probably more about reminding people that the Flash is still out there for his solo movie. But hey, let's hope for the best. What did you guys think about it?
Christian.
Well, I have more of a passing interest in the CW shows. I keep tabs on them and what's going on, just because I'm a comic book fan. I like the DC characters, but I've always liked the movies that Warner Brothers has cranked out more than the shows. And, there's definitely a clear production difference between what Snyder was doing in his version, in the Snyderverse, and what we've seen since then. Whether you like Shazam or Aquaman or whatever, just the production design and everything. And you're not really going to get that comparison. Is probably unfair because one is a movie versus a TV show. But the TV show sometimes really does look like cosplay in comparison to what we saw on the screen. So that's number one. But I have tried to keep an eye on it. So that being said, I watched the clip. I didn't think the clip was terrible. I didn't. It was just very silly. And as an MCU fan, to say it was silly, it's got to be silly. It was like overly silly. And they kind of pushed it, I thought, one step too far. Now, that being said, I want to repeat, I didn't think it was terrible. I want to say one thing, though. They've done what the MCU has not been able to do. They've connected their TV universe, their multiverse, with their movie universe. And that's not something that Marvel has successfully been able to do. They have yet to do that in a way that the fans have embraced. And that includes Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So there's been a couple of other shows on Netflix and everything that they've always been like, yeah, they're connected. Nah. This is the first time that we've seen one of these big studios truly say what's going on in the movies is connected to what's going on in the TV shows. And I can understand why the fans would be excited about that. Now, Lupe, you're a big fan of DC Comics, man. DC Comics loves their alternate universes and their alternate Earths, and they love this stuff. So there's no guarantee that this automatically points in the direction of a reboot for the DCEU or anything like that. It could just very simply mean that DC is going to right now embrace the concept of alternate universes. And if that's the case, everything that we see, TV and movies and everything, is all connected in some way. And like Paul said, it probably means that everything that we're seeing in the DCEU is canon. What I'm concerned about moving forward is for you guys especially, does that mean they're going to go hard on this new DCEU, or are they going to bring back elements of what happened before and maybe do some sort of combination? I'm not sure about that, so I don't know exactly what this means. But before I pass it to Lupe, if anybody hasn't done it yet, go on Twitter and have a field day with the comments. It is, oh my God. Oh my God.
I can imagine.
You definitely see both sides of it, eh?
Oh my God. Yeah. The people that are, because I'm fans with MCU Mutuals, so I'm fans with some of those people, and I'm fans with Snyderverse, Snyder Cut Mutual. Dude, oh my God. Like I'm seeing the back and forth going, and it's out of control. I had to mute it for a while because it was just nuts, but go ahead.
Tell me something, guys. In what world is that Grant Grant, what's his name? Grant what? Grant
Grant
Gustin?
Gustin.
Grant,
Grant
in
Gustin.
what world is that costume? Like, I see people on Twitter all the time trying to argue that that's the ideal Flash costume, and if only, you know, Justice League Ezra Miller's costume could live up to that standard. And I mean, that looks like we went to Party City and rented some costumes for the day. It's absurd. Oh my God.
This is what I'll say about it. One, everybody knows I am a die-hard Snyderverse fan. Zack Snyder, my favorite director. I love every single thing that he did with his DC universe. And you'd expect that I wouldn't like this cameo because I, quite frankly, don't like what the CW has done. I feel it's of inferior quality. I do not like the style of writing. I do not like how sugary and saccharine it is. It's this sort of pink sugar world. However, I do understand that everybody is different. Everyone has different tastes. There are people who absolutely love the CW world, love what they're doing there, and prefer it to the DCEU. And I'm mature enough to respect that, and I'm mature enough to accept that and to want that world to exist for their enjoyment. No one should ever want something that people are enjoying to die or to be destroyed. I find that to be a special kind of evil that can only be rewarded by 3 slaps to the face. That's all right.
Wow, Lupe, you set the standard. You set the standard for the rest of us to aspire to. I'm impressed.
No, but what I'm saying is that although I don't understand or love the CW, I'm okay with it existing where it's at and people like it. Just the way that I like the DCU, the way it, I have to say, was, and I would like for other people to respect that and allow me to enjoy what I like where it's at. Like, we can all, have different things. Everything doesn't have to be the same. The CW doesn't have to be the DCEU. With all that being said, I absolutely adored this cameo. On the principle of it. As Christian said, I'm a huge DC fan. And so the concept of multiverses is embedded in me. The CW is just a different universe. That's all it is. And I think if people can look at the Snyderverse and let that sink in, that's just a different universe. I might not like it, but it's a different universe. It exists. It's doing its own thing. In the CW universe, they talk like that. Stuff goes on like that, but it's a different universe. So different stuff happens in different universes. And I always have wanted this crossover to happen, but really I wanted it to happen as something very brief in the movie, in the Flash movie, because I feel like the quality of the CW, it's like bringing something up and pulling it down rather than pulling something down up. So I feel that while I do like the concept, but I would have preferred it to have happened in the Flash movie. Now, I hope that they don't start trying to mix the TV and the movie world too much. This cameo was nice. I would not mind a Grant Gustin cameo in a Flash movie as long as it's brief and they don't start doing stuff like bring in like Arrowverse characters. Once they do that, I'm out, guys. I'm completely. They shouldn't jump the shark there. But I really did like the concept. And as far as I'm concerned, when you see the 2 suits together, then you get an idea. You see that, wow, yeah, that Snyderverse Flash suit is pretty freaking amazing. And that's all I have to say about it. I think it's a cool thing, and I really enjoyed seeing it. The banter that they had, I was okay with it because that's how they talk in the CW. That's regular, dialogue for them. That's in their alternate universe. If that was in the Snyder universe, it would be out of place and I would find it weird. But I thought it was well done. That's just me. Let's move on to our next topic, which is going to be a big beefy one. I hope you guys have stretched and done your push-ups, because we're talking Star Wars Episode 9, the biggest thing to ever happen, where everyone wants to fight everyone over every little detail. And
that's Star Wars, bro. That's Star Wars.
The fandom menace versus the critics versus everyone. So this is actually like really cool news. Now, we have to say this is a rumor. It has been confirmed by some other reporters apart from the first source. So it might be true. There's a high likelihood that it's true, but it's a rumor. We're going to go deep in on the rumor, but if it's not true, don't call us out for spreading lies. All right. So Colin Trevorrow's Star Wars Episode 9 script leaked. Like, that's incredible. Now, this draft is from December 2016, just 11 days before Carrie Fisher's passing. And I'm going to hand it off to to Paul, to give us the details of what his version of Star Wars was going to be like, and how it differs from what J.J. Abrams brought to theaters.
Okay, yeah. So this, as you mentioned, this is sort of this was first reported, I believe, by Robert Meyer Burnett, who said that he obtained a copy of this leaked script, and he said, don't even ask me to share it. It's already gone, sort of thing. And he did a couple of long videos on this, and so some of this is, I guess, a lot of it is people trying to summarize out, bullet point what he was saying. Now later, like you mentioned, other people, Andy Signor being one, said that he also had a copy of the script and that Robert Meyer Burnett just beat him to it. It was supposedly confirmed as legitimate by Collider and the AV Club as well. So we've got a few people confirming this. One of the things that really bugged me about this is how it's being used by haters of The Rise of Skywalker to bash that film, right? And it's being said, you hear consistently from these bloggers and YouTubers how this is so much better. This is what Star Wars should have been. No plot holes, none of the flaws that Rise of Skywalker had. This is such a great script, right? And then so it bugged me a little. So it's taken me a little while to dig through some of these bullet points, and I've tried to boil this down as brief as I can, and still sort of convey some of the key points. So I'll just jump into it. There's some similarities to The Rise of Skywalker. There's some possible influences, and these guys, Trevorrow and Connolly, still do have a writing credit on the film. So basically, going through the highlights, Rose Tico is allegedly a key character in the script. Plays a larger role. There's some highlights here at the beginning. It opens in a shipyard, I believe. Poe, Finn, Rey, Rose, and BB-8 steal a Star Destroyer. I'm sure in the context of the film, maybe if that was going to happen, they have a good reason for it. Coruscant is involved in the film, which I think would have been interesting to see. Apparently, it's no longer a vibrant city. It's occupied by the First Order. Hux is now calling himself Chancellor Hux. Kylo's gone to Mustafar, so that's something that we did see in The Rise of Skywalker. In this case, he's being haunted by Luke's Force Ghost. Now, we heard in the alleged rumors about the JJ cut that Kylo was hearing Darth Vader's breathing. We don't know if that's true or not, but in this case, we're getting haunted by Luke's Force Ghost on Mustafar. Kylo finds Palpatine's holocron, which is a message, a pre-recorded message from Palpatine to Vader, instructing him in the case that things go wrong, and in the case of his demise, Vader's to take Luke to see someone called Tor Valum, who apparently was Palpatine's teacher. So in some ways, this makes a little bit of sense, right? Because in one of the frustrations we had with The Rise of Skywalker, or at least I did, and I think some others did as well, is the concept of these wayfinders, which were clearly holocrons in appearance. And a wayfinder didn't really have anything, any role or any existence in the canon prior to Rise of Skywalker. So the fact that they're using a holocron and it's Palpatine's holocron, that could make a lot of sense, right? So now, who is this Tor Valum? Because Palpatine's Sith Master was Plagueis. So where's this Tor Valum guy come from? who knows, right? So already I have some concerns with this narrative that this is so much better and that people would have loved this. I think people would have picked this apart as well. So now this is cool. I think this part, the holocron apparently recognizes that it's not Vader, and ends up blowing up in Kylo's face, injuring him. And jumping ahead a little bit, apparently he ends up back on Coruscant and having Mandalorian armor smelted to his face, like right to the burnt flesh, which kind of brings back some of the feelings of Darth Vader, right? A little reminiscent of Anakin Skywalker still in his charred clothing, melted flesh, being having the armor put on at the end of Revenge of the Sith. So that's kind of interesting. You've got Rey researching the Jedi texts again that she got on Ahch-To, and she discovers in these apparently that under the Coruscant Jedi Temple, there's a communication system called a Force Beacon that's from the old Republic days that can send a signal to 50 planets, and that's how they're going to get allies. So, one of the things that I remember from the end of the Last Jedi was, how few of them there were left and how nobody came to their aid. So this, I guess, is how they're getting their allies. Now, we do have Force Ghost Luke in this. He appears as Rey trains. So Rey is trying to get away from being a Jedi. She admits that she's no one. Luke is trying to convince her, and he's saying that the Force is speaking to her. He's pushing her to get stronger in the Force. And apparently, Luke was also pushing Kylo to let Ben Solo out. So I don't know if that alludes to the earlier scene or if this is still going on intermittently. But yeah, some of that same. I guess maybe a little more of Luke, a little different portrayal to what we got in the theatrical version. So Kylo ends up going to this Sith planet of Remnicor, where supposedly this Tor Valum is, and he takes Vader's mask, and he's quoted as saying, "You allowed your love to cloud your judgment," and he's sort of identified this as where Vader failed, is that he allowed his love to cloud his judgment. He throws Vader's mask off a balcony, shatters it. Rey apparently still believes there's good in Kylo. Leia's skeptical, but Rey believes in her Jedi training. So Kylo gets to Remnicor, confronts this Tor Valum, who apparently is this 7,000-year-old alien of unknown origin who's spindly and full of sinewy muscle. So I don't know how you explain this guy, but you know what? Maybe they would have given them the benefit of the doubt. Kylo begins to train with Valum, and I guess he fights Vader in a training exercise reminiscent of Empire Strikes Back, where Luke fights Vader and finds that it's himself inside the costume. In this case, Kylo fights Vader. Fight is brutal. Kylo loses. Meanwhile, I guess the Knights of Ren have tracked down Rey. They get in a fight. Rey defeats the Knights of Ren in a lightsaber battle. Rey ends up, there's some other plot points here I abbreviated out, but basically they find a way to unlock Rey's memory from her Force connection with Kylo, and she finds the way to I guess to get to Mortis. So Mortis comes into this somehow. So now they've moved on from Remnicor over to Mortis. So this again ties in with that idea of the leaked JJ plot, where supposedly the son of Mortis might have been in it. So that's interesting. Meanwhile, Leia's asked Lando, so again we've got Lando, if he'll organize the smugglers to fight the First Order. Finn apparently is a leader in this, who starts a citizen uprising in Coruscant around the First Order's citadel or palace, and then Leia brings her forces to Coruscant to battle the First Order. And apparently there's a massive space battle and ground battle. Meanwhile, Rey and Kylo battle on Mortis. They're using some kind of force energy that can pull from each other, so a little bit reminiscent of the Rise of Skywalker, maybe an influence. And then at some point it's revealed that Kylo is the one that killed Rey's parents at the behest of Snoke. And then towards the end, Luke, Obi-Wan, and Yoda all appear as Force ghosts to save Ben, but they're unsuccessful, and Ben is apparently extinguished, whatever that means. And there was a final note as well that Han Solo did appear in the script and does confront Kylo at some point. So again, another parallel to the Rise of Skywalker. So sorry for rambling on here, guys. Hopefully you're still with me. That's as short as I could get it. So I don't know. What do you guys think of that? What's your feeling about the script and how it's being used to, I guess, promote narratives in the blogosphere and vlogospheres.
All right, I'm going to go off just a little bit. All right. Look, I enjoyed all three of the Disney sequels. I did. All of them had their weaknesses. Absolutely. And Star Wars, by the way, I've been a Star Wars fan. I'm about 40 years old. I've been a Star Wars fan since I was a little kid. Guess what? Every Star Wars has its weakness. They all do. Now, when I read this script, and I want to thank Paul for going through all that, because I'm not going to go through all of it again. There's no point. Some of the things I did like, I liked some of the connections to Last Jedi, which is a movie that I personally enjoy. I liked some of the story continuations for Kylo Ren and his journey. I like the fact that Rey, that to my opinion is a fantastic character. I like the fact that in that particular script, she remained a quote unquote nobody. And she even started training the little broom kid that we saw at the end of Last Jedi, that he would be a trainee. If you read closer into the script, that's another little thing. So those are little things that I enjoy about this Trevorrow script that we got. I want to throw this out there. I like Rise of Skywalker and I like The Last Jedi for different reasons. They are different movies, and I have no issue with the fact that they're different movies. I'm going to say this up front. As a Star Wars fan and a lifelong Star Wars fan, no one hates Star Wars more than Star Wars fans. They are ridiculous. They hated Return of the Jedi. They hated the prequels. Now they hate the sequels. They're going to hate whatever comes next. They do Knights of the Old Republic next. They're going to hate that too. It doesn't matter. And it feeds these YouTube channels and everybody else, and they can go off and go crazy and they can monetize it. Would this have been better than what we got? Me personally? No, I don't think so. Everything sounds better in retrospect. The grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. And if the Trevorrow script is the one that eventually got made, they would have ripped it. They would have torn it apart. And then the J.J. Chris Terrio script gets leaked. Oh, the J.J. Chris Terrio script is the one that would have been fantastic, and Trevorrow was a piece of garbage. I mean, that's exactly what would have happened. And in addition,
I agree, Christian, totally.
That's just how I feel. And I think scripts get changed. Look, it happens during production. It happened with Rogue One, and we got a fantastic movie during that. I guarantee you Trevorrow's script would have been changed at some point during production. It would have happened. That's a draft that we got. Something would have been changed. It's all in the execution. We've seen these leaks. I'll end it on this, guys. And then I'll stop and go to Lupe. If I had read through the leaks for Rise of Skywalker on Reddit before watching the movie, I would have watched that movie, because the way I saw the leaks after I saw the movie and I watched what people were saying and what they were saying about the ending and everything like that, it was very slanted, and I would have been pissed off as soon as I walked into that theater, and I would have hated everything that I saw. And I didn't. As it turns out, I got an enjoyable Star Wars movie that I didn't necessarily like as much as the first two, but it was enjoyable. And that was that. Logan, if somebody had told me Logan, which is a movie I adore, if they told me they were bringing X-24 into it, and they told me that X-23 was going to turn the cross on his grave into an X, I would have cringed and would have been pissed off. If I had known about that beforehand, I probably would have been upset. When I saw the movie, it was fantastic, and it was done beautifully, and X-24 was done organically. But if you had told me that they were going to force X-24 into it, I would have been questioning James Mangold. That's why the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. That's why we shouldn't read these, the leaks beforehand and everything. I had to go off on Star Wars fandom. I apologize for doing it. I don't know if this would have been better. In my opinion, I don't think it would have been. This is the movie we got. But man, this is insane, and this is not the last we're going to see about this stuff, especially when it comes to Star Wars fans. Go ahead, Lupe.
All right. Well, for me, you guys know how I feel about Episode 9. Didn't like it at all. And the reasons why I didn't like it are sort of addressed with these points. In terms of, my main thing was, I felt like, one, it was such a departure from Episode 8. And it seemed like it was an intentional departure, not a natural departure. Also, as I said, I don't know, even after reading this, J.J. Abrams, he should never touch another Star Wars movie ever again. He's too unoriginal. Like, in this script now, it might not have, I can't piece this together enough to make a great movie, but I'm seeing a lot of new things, a lot of new ideas, a lot of, like new characters and new things happening. And with J.J. Abrams, both films he made, not just one, both just felt like rehashes and pandering and rehashes and pandering. That's my main thing. Like, I do not like being negative about anything, and I appreciate the fact that Christian, you like it. more than I do. I actually did enjoy it, to be sincere. It's just an enjoyable, vacuous,
Yeah, it's an
blockbuster.
enjoyable flick.
Yeah, it's enjoyable. Yeah, but you enjoyed it more than I did. You don't have
Because
much
I'm a Star Wars nerd. Yeah, I'm a Star Wars nerd. So
And I loved it. It was my favorite. It was my favorite movie of 2019.
Exactly. And Christian and Paul loved it. So I mean, I do not want to ruin your enjoyment of something. So I'm not going to speak. I'm not going to speak much more on it. I do not like that this is being used to push a narrative. Of course, they're going to do that. That's what they always do. They did it with Batman v Superman.
Yep.
And if it was the case that they liked Star Wars Episode 9, they'd use this to say, oh, you see how terrible this sounds? We're so lucky that we got that. So narratives, at the end of the day, just go with what you feel in your heart and what you like. And as we always say, if you love something, celebrate it, dwell on it, be happy and passionate about it. And if you don't like something, just say your piece and move on. And that's exactly what I'm doing. This movie did not come out. It's not going to come out. And there's not much to dwell on. I do like a few things that I see in here. The only thing that doesn't make sense here is that, one, it says Rostico is a key character in the script. And then it says nothing else about her.
Yeah.
Super suspect.
Well, I think she's that may just be because of how I summarized it. I think she was involved more in the beginning, and then isn't she? She doesn't say she's involved in Citizen Uprising. I'd have to go back.
Oh yeah, I was about to say but there's a lot of stuff that happens that I just don't see her popping up at all.
Yeah, I think she may have been more in the extended summary, but it was it was the stuff that just seemed like unimportant to me. Like as I was trying to summarize this and grab the bullet points, I tried to grab the stuff that I thought was material to the story and interesting, and obviously unintentionally, I seem to have cut just about everything out with her character. And now maybe that's what. Go ahead.
Yeah, she was part of the group that stole a Star Destroyer, which I think is quite interesting, although it doesn't really say what they used it for. The holocron stuff I really like. This Tor Valum character
seems to invalidate Plagueis, which I don't like, but interesting idea, but you don't want to invalidate Plagueis, right?
Yeah, exactly. You really don't. If they had used Palpatine did kill Plagueis. At least it was implied that Palpatine
poisoned him.
So actually that makes sense for there to be someone else.
No, but I mean, if you read the Plagueis novel, Plagueis basically manipulates and shapes Palpatine from a young age. There's no other Sith master at any point.
Yeah.
So where this Tor Valum guy has come from all of a sudden is an odd one.
No, but he could be another. He could be another, Sith, Lord who comes from somewhere else and just has a greater stand-in. So kind of how Palpatine came. At first it was Snoke, and then Palpatine came out of nowhere and was, but if you look at the Plagueis novel, like Plagueis brought Palpatine to where he is basically, and by the end of that novel, Palpatine already has Darth Maul as an apprentice. Darth Maul ends up getting cut in half during the Phantom Menace, because the Plagueis novel actually crosses right into Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, and he's already in the process of bringing Count Dooku on as his new apprentice by the end of the Plagueis novel. And what you don't realize, I believe, actually, when Plagueis finally dies, it is in Episode 2. So Plagueis was alive all throughout Episode 1 and into Episode 2. So if Plagueis is still Palpatine's master by Episode 2, at what point does Palpatine decide he needs a new master named Tor Valum, right?
You know what? I'll say this before I shut up. To me, and I can only speak for myself, this reinforces that I don't believe Lucasfilm had an overarching 3-episode story.
Really not.
A lot of people think that they knew Last Jedi was going to happen, and I don't think so. I still think that they might have had a general idea of where the story was going to go, but after Force Awakens, they were like, okay, what's next?
I think the extent of their general idea was like, all right, we introduce this character, and in the end, the good guys win.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
remake
no, I
episode 4 and let's go.
I think JJ had a little more of a plan than that. But I mean,
Yeah,
when
but
you
he
cut
wasn't going to
Snoke in
be.
half and throw him away,
Yeah, but he
you're
wasn't going to
back
be
to the
the guy
drawing
that
board.
was going to be running the next 2 movies, though.
Yeah,
That wasn't his stuff. So
yeah, if he had a plan, you think
Yeah.
that uh I'm blanking out on his name, the director
Ryan
of
Johnson.
right, yeah, you
Ryan
think Ryan
Johnson?
Johnson, Ryan Johnson would have ditched it. You talk about plans before. That doesn't people don't go rogue. People don't go rogue. You talk
Are
about
you sure about that?
it's going, you have to do this. Disney didn't have a plan. They
Yeah,
just did.
I'm with Lupe. I don't think they had a full plan. I really don't. And I think JJ might have had ideas in his head, but if he did, it's not like there was anything that he made an agreement with Disney and signed a contract or anything that said this is the story that you're going to move forward. He went off and did other projects, man. He was done. He was
Yeah.
done. It didn't matter. He wasn't coming back to Star Wars. He was done.
Yeah, but I still have trouble believing they didn't at least have a rough outline for where this was going to go with those characters. But
So do I,
anyway,
but
that's a longer discussion.
Oh yeah. There's no reason to get into that. What were we going to say, Lupe?
No,
Go ahead, Lupe.
it's okay. We're just talking about it. It's shocking for such a big. I think that what they were thinking was just, oh, we're gonna have 3 different artists come and they're gonna hand the baton to each other and it's gonna go in these wild and interesting directions. And they did that with The Last Jedi. That's what they did. It went from one director and then another director just took it in a completely different direction. And I liked that. I liked how different it was. But I think because of the backlash to that, they weren't able to go with Trevorrow and go in another wild direction. If people had loved The Last Jedi, they would have stuck with Trevor and be like, wow, this sort of new, exciting, doing, different things. But once they saw that there was backlash, they were like, ooh, let's go back into our safe zone. And our safe zone, there's nothing safer than J.J. Abrams on all, even conceptually, being that he made a Star Wars movie that was generally liked. That concept itself safe. And then the director himself is safe.
But if you take that story circle model, I don't know if that's the right term for it, but let's say you're going around in a circle and each person's contributing to the story. You have an idea in mind, you pass the baton, the next guy tells something, the next guy tells something, then it gets back to you. Well, you're still pulling on your original idea, and I think that's what JJ did. He says, okay, well, now that you've handed the baton back to me, what do I do with this? And he's still pulling on what he probably had in his mind originally and saying, okay, how do I work this now, right? And like you say, some of your criticisms of JJ are valid. He's a little safer. But when you look at this script, I don't see this as being tremendously more original than what we got with The Rise of Skywalker. I mean, you've got Kylo Ren fighting a vision of Vader. You got him getting his face burned and a mask melted on. I mean, these are parallels to Vader. How are these parallel? The other ones aren't. Like, how are these ones original?
I do think though that actually that supports what Lupe was saying though before that, because if you take a look, this script is December 2016, right before Carrie Fisher passes away. Last Jedi releases in 2017. It looks like this script was completely off the reservation, picking up some of the story pieces that were going on in Last Jedi, right? But it might lend a little.
Snoke's gone and Luke's dead, so it's definitely picking up. At least he's aware of what happens in The Last Jedi at this point.
Absolutely. I think it does go back to what Lupe said, though. I think that they might have just turned around and said, you know what, Ryan, you do your thing. Colin, you do your thing. And that's it. And they're going to go off in some crazy freaking directions for episode 8 and episode 9. Because at this point, the backlash from Last Jedi had not yet hit. So you had another director that was going to go off in a crazy direction and do his thing. And I agree with you. I don't think this script is any better. I don't. But they were forced to go safe because this was before the backlash from Last Jedi. Last Jedi was released in 2017, right? The whole year, after this script. So it's, who knows, man. There's a lot. There's so much going on behind the scenes, but I do believe that it does lend. When you read something like this, it absolutely makes me feel like Disney had less of an idea of what they were doing with this than we think they did. It wasn't just JJ set it up, you got the story arc, and we're going to run it. No, I think it's JJ starts it, Ryan does his thing, Colin does his thing. And I think once the backlash hit, they went, holy shit.
Yeah, could be. It's so crazy to think when you're doing a trilogy that you wouldn't have that plan. But you're right. The evidence definitely points that way. And especially with a franchise this size, like if you're going to lock it into a trilogy, you gotta have a plan, right? At least a rough plan, right? Like, you've just paid $4 billion to acquire this property. You're building out, massive sections of your theme park. You're trying to sell toys to kids, and you're doing like something that seems like it would be like a writing school exercise, right? The passing the baton thing, right? It's
a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate that just cranks out movies. You figured they'd know what to do. Oh, well, whatever.
Oh, wow.
Well,
Yeah.
what
So
I will say about this news is that Star Wars fandom is based on a lot of, like speculation, discussions.
Yes, it is.
Using the fans' imaginations to build out the universe. That's why it's such a potent fandom. And what this does is that it ignites conversation. It ignites the passions of the fans. It ignites, all that good conversation and speculation, as I said. And
Definitely.
so, yeah, this script being leaked is there's nothing wrong. I think it's actually quite a good thing.
Mhm.
And as I said, people who liked what J.J. Abrams did can take a look at the other shoe and see whether they would prefer this or they wouldn't. They most likely wouldn't, and vice versa. So I think it's really interesting just to see what other way it could have gone. But what we got is what we got.
Yeah.
Well, I agree with your point about the speculation. That is such a huge part of Star Wars, and in fact, sometimes that's a bigger part of it than the actual films themselves, right? Like you spend 2 years speculating or 3 years speculating in the past, right? Waiting to see what you actually get. That's a huge, huge part of it. The number of hours you spend thinking and theorizing and speculating and sharing your thoughts and discussing dwarfs the number of hours you actually spend watching the movies. With that said, Star Wars fans get a bad rap for being really negative, and I hated The Last Jedi, but I love The Rise of Skywalker. As I said, criticize it if you want. I know I'm opening myself up to criticism. It was my favorite movie of 2019. I'm not going to say it's technically the best. I get why people have issues with it, but I loved it. This was the theater experience I enjoyed the most by a long shot in 2019. And I went to see it 3 times. I didn't go to see any other movie twice. That said, I would have also enjoyed this script. I don't think it's better than The Rise of Skywalker. I'm happy with what we got, but if this is what we got, I could see how this could have worked. I think it would have been fine. So either way, I think it would have been pretty good. It's interesting to talk about. I loved what we got, but hey, this would have been okay too.
Hey, Lupe would probably say the same thing, man. Never apologize for what you love or what you enjoy. Enjoy what you want. Never apologize.
Exactly. Well, that was a positive Star Wars discussion. Wow, we did it, guys.
Yeah, you know what? Keep track of this one right here, because this was the positivity. You just got about 30 seconds to a minute of solid positivity out of it.
Amazing. All right. So we're heading into our coming soon section, and in this section, we talk about movie posters, movie trailers, all that good forward-looking stuff about movies that are coming on the horizon. So we have 3 trailers to talk about. Black Widow special look, they're calling it. Bloodshot international trailer, number 2, and Morbius teaser trailer. So let's start with the Black Widow trailer. Black Widow, starring Scarlett Johansson, starring Florence Pugh, that's her name. Both Academy Award nominees, and they call this a special look. The movie's coming out on the 1st of May. So, Christian, you're the official Marvel fanboy on our podcast. What do you think about this Black Widow special look?
I am a fanboy. I liked this one as much as the first trailer that we got not too long ago. I was talking with Paul off the pod. I didn't feel like they went crazy and gave us too much more. To talk about the trailer itself, it was still exciting. It's still highlighting her, which is what I want them to do. I want them to continue to highlight her. I understand her character is dead. This movie, I think, now officially takes place between Infinity War and Captain America Civil War. So it takes place between those 2 movies. So it's before Thanos came to Earth, and it's a little bit more of a personal story to her. I do like the fact that they're going to dip into her past a little bit, and we get a chance to see some of the assassins that she worked with. Maybe, the big thing about Black Widow has been getting the red out of her ledger. That was the big thing. The big thing with her was that she killed people. She always felt badly about it. She never felt that she could be forgiven for the horrible things that she did. And maybe this movie will show that she was on the way to hopefully making amends for those type of things. Apparently, at the end of Endgame, she never really felt like she really did, and she had to sacrifice herself in order to feel like she could finally do that. But she always wanted to get the red out of her ledger. So it does look like an MCU movie. Let's not, come on, let's not beat around the bush. It does look like an MCU movie. It looks a little formulaic at times. There's a lot less comedy in this than I would have expected. I like that. They're showing a new troop of widows. That's cool. I want to see the Widow Training Center. I definitely want to see all that. And we got our first look at the Taskmaster, which everybody was bashing in the first trailer, and he looks badass in this one. And if you guys know anything about him in the comics, he mimics your fighting style. He starts to learn everything about you. And when she started to pop up and they did the role, he immediately mimicked it. So it looks like they're going to dip right into the comics with that. I love it. I hate the arguments that I'm seeing online. The MCU fanboys are going ballistic and saying this movie looks great, and the haters are saying it's terrible. Can we just enjoy what we saw? It looked like a really cool trailer, and I want to see Scarlett Johansson get one more shot at a Black Widow movie, and we can enjoy her in this. I'm going to end it by saying it's an interesting year for Marvel. I don't think they have $2 billion movies in the bank this year. They have this, and they have the Eternals, which I'm personally excited for. But if both those movies hit $750 million, I think this is going to be a bit of a quiet year for Marvel Studios. I do, but absolutely looking forward to this. So take it, guys. All right.
Paul, what about you?
All right, keeping up with the positivity here. You know what I said last time? I thought this looked okay. I don't know much about the character. I haven't seen much of Phase 3 of the MCU. I still haven't seen Endgame. Haven't seen half watched Infinity War. I haven't seen Far From Home. So, I'm probably a little out of the loop about what's going on with the character. But, as Christian mentioned, tone-wise, I think this looks pretty good. Less humor than you would typically get from a Marvel film. It looks formulaic. It looks like a Marvel film, but it looks entertaining. Looks okay. Probably not enough to drag me out to the theater, but enough that I'd throw this on when it comes on streaming, probably, and that's more than I can say for most of what we've got from the MCU over the past 3 or 4 years, right? So, as positive as I can be about an MCU film. So there you go, keeping the positivity going.
Wow.
All right. So I'm a bit more negative on it. Sorry to say,
Boo.
but I'm not wildly negative on it. This is what I will say. It doesn't look bad. One thing that I'm really excited about is that it's a female dominated movie, obviously directed, starring, co-starring, triple co-starring, all that good stuff. And there is a ton of action. Wow, this might end up being one of the most action-packed MCU movies. And I don't mean big action set pieces. I mean in terms of like hand-to-hand combat, fights, gunfights, that kind of thing. So I think that's really cool, because a lot of times when they do female movies, action movies, genre movies, the action is not as much as in male, movies. So I'm very happy that, they're going above and beyond. It has a feel like a Captain America kind of movie, that sort of military spy thing going on, but a tad bit more fantastical. The only thing that I don't like about it is that it just is another Marvel movie. It's just another, like, the same old, and I'm a little bit bored of it. It doesn't. There was a time, way back when it would my heart would beat a little bit faster, it would pound a little bit harder when I saw these kind of trailers for Marvel. But now I'm just at the same BPM, when I see it, like, okay. So I wish that Marvel would step out of their frame. They have the cachet to do it. They have the capital of trust from the fans, where honestly, with some of the terrible stuff that Marvel has put out and they've gotten acclaim, they can do anything they want at this point, and critics and fans will say it's the best thing ever. So why not just do something different? Make it look different, make the costumes look different, the dialogue. Like, don't be scared, that's like, I thought I was getting superhero fatigue, but I'm not getting superhero fatigue. I've gotten Marvel fatigue, and I'm just a bit tired of their stuff. I don't even know if I'll see this. It depends on what you guys say what people like Paul and people like Christian say, that might convince
You're gonna be
me.
waiting a while for me if you're waiting
Dude,
for my feedback.
I might catch this in theaters if I have a day when I'm free and I do a double bill. But it wouldn't be something that I go out to see on its own. That will never happen. It's just too same old samey for me. I'm sorry to say. But as I said, for Marvel fans will love it. And the fact that it has a lot of action and it's good action, that's pretty darn good.
I'm glad you mentioned one thing before we move on. By the way, you what you're saying is true with the X-Men coming, and they are. The Eternals coming this year, and they're extremely cosmic. There's a couple of other things like Blade. They could step out of their comfort zone if they wanted to. And again, we've seen some little things, but what happens is it never sticks.
Yeah.
And like we said in the previous pod, I love what I have because I just adore the MCU and I understand what the MCU is. But they could do these things if they wanted to, and they probably would be more accepted than other studios for doing it.
Absolutely.
Can we just give them? Oh, go ahead, Lupe.
No, go ahead, Paul.
I was just going to say, can we give them a little credit for being different in that they seem to have scaled back on the comedy? I think the fact that this isn't, isn't comedy bordering on parody is different, in itself, and it's actually a step back to when the MCU is actually a little better. Like you mentioned, it's got the Captain America tone. That's kind of what it looked like to me a little bit. No, I'm no MCU connoisseur, but the last time I remember enjoying an MCU movie was probably Winter Soldier, and I barely remember that one. But this one kind of felt a little bit tonally like that one. Am I mistaken on that?
No, you're not mistaken on that. And I think it actually tonally they are going for that militaristic tone, I think, with this movie. And Endgame was a 3-hour movie outside of the middle hour, which was pure fan service, and there was a ton of comedy in that middle hour. The first hour of that movie is actually very sad as they're dealing with the after effects of the snap. And the last part of the movie, you thought Captain America was going to sacrifice himself. The ending of the movie is not as sad as other comic book movies like BVS or Logan. But it's still, the end of that movie is not, it doesn't end with a lot of jokes, but that middle hour is a joke fest in Endgame. But yeah, I would agree with you. I think this is smacking back to that because a lot of people love her performance in Winter Soldier. They think that's her best performance.
Yeah. No, for me, the reason why I'm trying to remember the actor's name, the guy who was in Stranger Things and Hellboy and is in this movie.
Stranger Things.
David something maybe?
Yes, yeah. David something. I'm forgetting his name.
David Harbour? Is it Harbour?
Yes.
Harbour. His character, it was a comedic character and was sane and doing some silly things. That's the thing about Marvel is that they'll give you something serious, but they don't commit. And Kevin Feige said that will always be them, and I don't like one thing I like about the Winter Soldier. There's probably like only one kind. Like in that movie, there's only one actual jokey joke in that entire movie. Only one. Only one in an entire Marvel movie.
Impressive in retrospect for Marvel.
Yeah, it's so unique in the Marvel space, and also, as I said, this it's a bit more fantastical than the Winter Soldier. Although obviously the Winter Soldier is still sci-fi fantasy. But this one, with like Black Widow, like flying, and the costumes are quite elaborate. So it leans a little bit more away from that towards more of the Marvel style stuff. But, I don't have too much negative to say about it. I just wish that they could do something different. For example, like if Doctor Strange had ended up being a horror movie, it would... I don't think Kevin Feige understands what will happen if he does so, because the amount of capital this guy has, he can take the wildest swing and he would knock it out of the solar system. So we'll see. So let's move on to another comic book movie, Bloodshot, in national trailer from Sony Pictures, and it stars Vin Diesel. It's coming to theaters very soon, actually in about 2 months, on March the 13th. It's directed by Dave Wilson, who I think he was in like VFX. He hasn't done like a bunch of movies. I think he's done like some short films. And it also stars Eiza Gonzalez and Sam Heogan, I think. And Vin Diesel plays a character called Ray Garrison, a soldier who was recently killed in action and brought back to life as a superhero Bloodshot by a private paramilitary corporation called RST, and basically he has an army of nanotech cells in his bloodstream. He is faster, stronger, has instantaneous healing capabilities, but then the company controls his body and his mind, and that's where the drama comes in. He's trying to get back control and figure out what exactly happened to him, because his memories may be real, may not be real. So Christian, you saw the first trailer, you really liked it. What do you think of this trailer? Is it keeping the hype train going? Did it derail the hype train, or did it, push the hype train into overdrive?
For me, I think it just kept it going. And don't forget, Guy Pearce is in it. I completely forgot Guy Pearce was in this movie.
True.
I was really excited to see him and have a much bigger role in this trailer as well. This is a cool character from the comics. He's a different character. Sony is building something very interesting with their comic book universe here, and I like it. Look, like other comic book movies, like Marvel and what the MCU has done, it's a little silly, but I'm here for it. I don't care. This is a movie. This is a comic book movie that doesn't give a crap about a wider universe, right? Being connected to a DCEU or an MCU. It just looks like it's going to be a badass comic book movie. You got the scene where he gets a shotgun blast to the face, and then his face suddenly starts contorting itself back together and everything like that. It's the kind of comic book movie that probably would have been made more in like the early 2000s, and maybe it's time to go back for some of that stuff. And the special effects were better now in this trailer. It looks like they're a little more polished. And in addition to that, I like how they leaned into the memory side of it, that the company is controlling his memories and he's repeating certain, it's almost like a Winter Soldier-esque kind of thing. They erase his memory when he goes off and assassinates somebody, but the memories are coming back to him, and he's going to try to take control of his life. I think people are sleeping on this movie. I think this movie's going to be better than people think it's going to be. Vin Diesel, I know, kind of, he runs hot and cold with some people. I find him to be highly entertaining. If I'm around, I think this is an opening weekend watch for me. I really do.
Yeah, I'm put the hype's in overdrive for me. I love this, man. I'm really excited about this movie. I liked the first trailer, and I love this one.
Positivity, man. Positivity.
Yeah, I love the look of this thing. I love the color scheme, the cinematography. Now, this director, I think this is his first film he's directing, right? Like he's got some history in video games, I believe, is his background.
Video games, yeah.
Yeah, so so that's going to be interesting to see what he puts together. And actually, just look at the interestingly enough, some of the video games he's worked on, The Force Unleashed and Star Wars: The Old Republic. So some things that also look pretty cool, right? And as I say, there's a scene in this trailer where the imagery sort of is reminiscent of Tron Legacy. Some of the color palette he uses reminds me a little bit of BVS. The scene where you get some of the slow-mo speed ramping reminds me a little bit of an homage to Snyder's style, where you see his face get blown apart in slow motion, and he's still moving forward and pulling out his gun and shooting while his face is pulling itself back together. I thought that just looked awesome. So. As long as they don't screw the story up, this to me feels like a kind of keep it simple, stupid kind of movie. Like they've already got me with the action and the visuals and the tone of this film. Just don't screw it up with lame comedy. Don't get too cute with the dialogue. It's kind of, to me, I'm hoping this comes out a little bit like Dredd did, the Keith Urban Dredd. Yep. Very simple.
Love that movie.
But God, I love that movie. That movie. It's immersive. It's what's the word I'm looking for? Yes, visceral. It's immersive and visceral, and that's what I'm hoping for from this one. So I'm not a huge Vin Diesel fan typically, but I think this is the kind of role he can work in, and I love what I've seen so far. So I'm going to be there opening weekend for sure. I might even be there if they put it on a Thursday night show. I'll be there by myself on a Thursday night. Watching this one, so I'm really excited about this one. I think I had it on number 12 on my most anticipated for 2020, and now I'm kind of regretting not putting it higher.
Well, for me, I'm a little bit mixed on this trailer. I'm sorry.
Man, you're the negative one tonight.
I know. I haven't been as positive as you guys have been. Now, I am all in on the film. Day one, I'm there. I'm really looking forward to it. The first trailer really sold me. okay, so it's either two things with this trailer. One, either the trailer wasn't cut well, or this film might have narrative problems because the story they tried to build was all over the place. And if that's a precursor for the way the movie's gonna be, we might be having a little bit of a problem. But it's just a trailer, so it just wasn't cut well, I don't think. The first trailer told a really good story. Like, you got a really good sense of what's going on. There's an amazing hook, and it got you. It really played on that Groundhog Day kind of purgatory where this guy is in the hell of, big bad corporations making, and he can't get out of it. And the visuals, everything was good. But in this one, it was just, the story was just all over the place, and the trailer itself couldn't tell a good story. So as a trailer, it really didn't do well at all, but that did not affect my hype. I'm actually even more hyped because it's coming sooner. It seems like the closer it draws to its debut, the more excited I'm getting, because it's, as I said, I love things that are different, not just because they're different. They also have to be good, and this is different and it's good. I really hope that Vin Diesel can find some success in this so he can stop making 10 billion Fast and Furious movies. Honestly, that guy, he's tried so many different things and he needs a break. I really loved him in his Pitch Black, the Chronicles of Riddick movies. The last one was kind of terrible. But
the first one was great, though.
The first one was incredible. Second one was also incredible. The third one was just, not good. So I hope he finds some success in this. And as Paul said, it seems that this is the type of role that he was born to play. So for me, not a good trailer, but doesn't affect my hype for the movie, which is building as it's coming closer to us. So
to your point, I was just gonna say, Lupe, just to your point, I didn't even pay attention to the story of this trailer. I got enough from the first trailer, and I was just sucked in by the imagery in this one. So it's funny. I'm gonna go back and watch it through that lens that you just sort of brought to my attention. But they already had me from the first trailer of the story, and I just loved what I saw in this one.
Absolutely. So yeah, let me know what you think in terms of how it tells the story. We'll have a discussion about that. So the last trailer that we're going to talk about is for Morbius, and it seems like we've been waiting for this teaser for forever, and it's finally here. From Sony Pictures, this is going to be in their Spider-Verse. It's releasing this coming summer. The director is Daniel Espinosa. It stars Jared Leto, Matt Smith, Adria Arjona, Jared Harris, Tyrese is in it, J.K. Simmons is in it as well. And it's about one of Marvel's most compelling and tortured characters. Jared Leto transforms into the enigmatic anti-hero Michael Morbius. Dangerously ill with a rare blood disorder, in his desperation, he turns to a gamble which robs him of his humanity but gives him superhuman abilities. So Christian, what do you think of this teaser for Morbius? What do you think about what Sony's doing with their Spider-Verse?
I'm going to go 3 for 3 that I was happy with the trailers that we got this week. This was again, going back to what I said about Sony. Sony's doing something on their own, and I'm all here for it. Now, let's just talk about the trailer first. A lot of people were mentioning potential connections into the Spider-Verse, potential connections to the MCU. Whether that was going to happen or not, I really didn't care, because Morbius is I want to watch my language, an effing cool character in the comic books. And I think a guy like Jared Leto is the perfect guy to pull off the pained, haunting, tortured aspect that this character has, and the fact that his bloodlust suddenly kicks in and everything. I think Jared Leto is going to be the guy to do that. And it looked like they were trying to do something different here and focusing on just his character. Now, you're going to get fantastical elements. I think the trailer was cut well. It was a slick trailer. It was also creepy. I liked the music that was going on in the background. So it was a little creepy as well. It looked like they're trying to blend some horror elements into this. And did you guys notice the contrast between sickly Jared Leto, and then boom, he injects himself and he becomes a beast. I love what they're doing here. I like the back and forth that they have. It looks like he's going to be able to play a guy that truly is tortured. We got a little bit of a look at what he's going to look like at the end. And if you guys know anything about the comics, it looks like it's ripped right out of a page of a comic book. That's wonderful. You know me, I love that kind of stuff. The look is very big for me. The only thing I don't like, and I will, but before I move on to what I don't like, I want to say I'm here day one for this. The trailer sold me on the movie. I was probably sold before this. It was a great trailer. I thought it was a very, very good trailer. Do I think it's going to be the greatest comic book movie ever made? No, I don't. But I'm interested in what they're doing here because it looks like they're trying to do something very different on their own. Whatever deal they made with Disney for Spider-Man, I think they got a good thing out of it. They got a good thing out of it. They can do what they want to do, which I think was very important for Sony without having to do whatever Kevin Feige wanted them to do. They can just do whatever they want to do. And I think that's really good. The only thing I wanted to say that I didn't like is the narratives that I'm seeing online, both from the pro MCU stan community and the I hate Disney, I hate MCU community. I think we're taking very extremist views on this. Some people, of course, honestly love it, and other people honestly hate it, right? That's fine. But some of the reactions I'm seeing is, can we just love this without trashing either the DCEU or the MCU? Can we just say this looks good, and without saying, well, James Wan would never do that or Kevin Feige would never do that? This just looks great. Can we just celebrate that it looks like this is going to be great? And I'll end it with, it's interesting to see where this is going to go at the end. I don't know if this necessarily connects to Tom Holland's Spider-Man, because remember, they have a Spider-Verse. They could do whatever the hell they want at the end of this, guys. They don't necessarily have to have Tom Holland Spider-Man. They could do whatever they want, and this could be really interesting. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think I like this. I like this trailer at the beginning. It started out strong, I thought, and
it's creepy.
And then by the end, though, I thought, oh well, actually, that felt kind of like a formulaic Marvel movie. And I didn't get that. This and Bloodshot are both Sony Pictures, but this one has a distinctly different feel to it. It has the Marvel feel to it by the end of it, and that disappointed me a little. I was hoping they would lean a little more into the horror sci-fi and keep it a little more Sony and a little less Marvel. And this feels a little more Marvel. But I like Jared Leto. I'm cautiously optimistic. I don't have any sort of built-in love for this character. My only memories of Morbius were when I was collecting Spider-Man comics, 30 plus years ago, and I was always disappointed when I'd get a Morbius issue. Like I liked the Hobgoblin and the Rhino and Green Goblin and Venom especially. I was never a Morbius fan. I was always like, when you get a B villain comic and you're like, I gotta wait for this storyline to finish before we get a good villain again. That's what I thought of about Morbius.
We gotta get you some Morbius comics, man.
So that being said, I thought this could have been good, and there's elements I liked about it, but by the end of it, I just thought, oh wow, it's just another MCU movie, and especially with that Michael Keaton appearance, I would have loved for them to keep this separate. And you know what? Actually, before I saw him, I had a brief glimmer of hope that they might tie this in with, even going back and bringing. I mean, God, I know it's a pipe dream, but I'd love to see them bring back Tobey Maguire or Andrew Garfield and do a Spider-Man 4 or an Amazing Spider-Man 3 and tie their villains in with that. Like, get rid of Tom Holland. I have no interest in Iron Man Jr. And that kills. Oh, no Iron Man Jr. No, I just no. I don't want any of that. So the minute you bring that universe in, it kind of sours me on a little. It's just disappointing, but I guess it's fine as Marvel movies go, and I see this more as Marvel than Sony. It's fine, I guess. I didn't love Venom. I didn't hate it. I think this is going to be the same.
Well, for me, I really liked this. Love is a very powerful emotion, and I don't think it extends to this. I really liked it a lot. I see exactly what Paul is saying about the end, and I am disappointed to see Michael Keaton in it. I'm hoping that he's not from the MCU. I'm hoping that's not the Vulture. I want Sony to keep their autonomy. I want Sony to do their own thing on the side, build their universe without any links to the MCU. I like the tone. I like the visuals. It's not an especially visually striking film. It doesn't look, but I like the image quality. I like the darkness, the grittiness. It has that sort of 90s feel to it in terms of the look of it. Jared Leto, obviously, I'm a fan of his. He's good in everything he does. He has a charisma all his own. The story looks interesting. I'm not very familiar with the character of Morbius, so this is going to be a very good, introduction to the character and what he's all about, his angst, his trials, his tribulations. And the reason why I like it, and I'm excited about it, is that sorry to get back to the whole Marvel thing and MCU thing, is that AMC has dominated so much. I mean, completely dominated the comic book landscape that in people's minds and mine subconsciously to a degree, when you think of a comic book movie, you think of a Marvel style movie. And so seeing Sony doing something different is good. Any other, things you guys want to say about it?
No, I mean, I agree with you. I think seeing them do that is good. And the only thing I will say is I don't know if it's necessarily a connection to the MCU. I don't know if we know that for sure, because they do have a spider multiverse that they're allowed to work in. And there's things that they can do there. For the moment, I don't even want to dwell on that. I really don't. A lot of people are dwelling on that on social media. They're dwelling on the connection there. I just want to dwell on the fact that he looked cool and that this looked like something different, at least for the majority of the trailer before they started going into MCU land at the end. We just don't know if they're really going to go in that direction. I just really wanted to try to dwell on him and really focus on him. And I liked that they did that. So, hey, who knows, guys? It might go in the direction that both of you are talking about. It might. But we have a couple months away.
Yeah. One last thing I was going to point out here, and this isn't specific necessarily to Morbius, but I was looking at the views on these three trailers that we looked at tonight. Black Widow special look and Morbius both came out on January 13th. Black Widow has 2.8 million views on the Marvel YouTube channel. Morbius, now I know these are not the only source. I mean, other people, redistribute these. So this isn't like the total views, but just from the originating channel. The Black Widow's got 2.8. The Morbius is 8.4 million, released on the same day. So it's generating a lot of talk, a lot of hype. And poor Bloodshot released a day later on the same Sony channel as Morbius, only 900,000 views. So I'm hoping we got to do some work to spread the good word about Bloodshot, because I think it's going to be the best of the three. But
let's get out there and pound the pavement.
That's right. Get out there and watch this trailer and spread the word.
All right. Well, before in wrapping up, I'd like to know what was your favorite trailer and which one had the most impact on you. Let's start with Christian. Yeah.
Favorite trailer. You know what? I'm going to go with it. Morbius was my favorite trailer. Definitely was. And you know how much I adore Black Widow, and I'm going to be there on opening day, but it didn't give me too much of anything new. That's number one. And except for Taskmaster, and Bloodshot was cool. And I liked, some of the other stuff that they did with it, but for me, it kept my hype level. It didn't do anything else. Morbius was a movie that it's a brand new trailer. So for me, yeah, absolutely. It was my favorite.
Okay. And Paul.
I'll keep this short. Bloodshot, and it's not even close.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'll echo Christian's sentiments. Morbius, definitely. I've been thinking about it actually a little bit. The trailer kind of stayed on my mind. I really like what I'm seeing. It's so we haven't seen like a real sort of like vampire superhero, anti-hero, And I love Venom. In case you guys don't know, absolutely adore that movie. I have it on 4K UHD.
Yeah, it's not a bad flick.
No. At least to me, it's not. To me, it's actually like very good. It's interesting because it is quite, comedic, and
It's funny. Yeah, it
it
is.
is, but it's a different kind of it's dark humor.
Yeah, it
It's
is.
like dark, silly, like off the wall humor. Yeah, and like when I was growing up, like reading Venom, I loved Venom. And
Yeah.
the way they portray Venom, his humor is actually the exact way he talks in the comics.
I know.
Venom is an asshole. Venom is a freak. People don't realize like Venom is like an asshole. So
His conversations with the symbiote were actually very good. I thought it was very good.
very, very good. A lot of people wouldn't realize that. So there you have it, guys. ENN number 17 in the bag and on the books. We
Boom.
did it, guys. How do you feel?
Oh, I feel
Positive. Really positive.
good. The word of the night is positive. Positive Paul.
That's the word of the night. And on the positive notes, we bid our audience adieu. Thank you guys for listening. Thanks for being with us. We really appreciate you guys. Converse with us. Tell us what you think of the trailers that we saw. Tell us what you think of the topics. What do you think of Colin Trevorrow's Star Wars Episode 9, quote unquote, leaked script? Did Colin Trevorrow leak that himself or what? That's another topic for another day.
It might be, it could be.
It might be. You might be like, hey, this is my chance. This is my chance. Also, Christian, where can people find you to converse with you about film?
Hit me up on Twitter. It's chart6363. I'm the therapeutic guitarist.
Nice. And Paul?
Same. Hit me on Twitter at _Paul_P.
All right. And you can find me on Twitter or on Vero at Live Love Lupe. And that's a wrap. Till next time, stay exiled.